Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into something that might make you rethink everything you know about your relationship. Picture this. You're in love, you feel like you're in control, making your own choices. Picking where to go for dinner, deciding how to spend your weekend, maybe even steering where this relationship is headed. You feel free, like you're the one calling the shots. But what if I told you that maybe, just maybe, you're not as free as you think? What if behind the scenes, she's the one quietly guiding your decisions, shaping your behavior, and even changing who you are? Not with loud arguments or demands, but with subtle, almost invisible tactics that are so clever you don't even notice them. This isn't about pointing fingers or blaming anyone. It's about pulling back the curtain on the hidden psychology of power in relationships. The kind of control that doesn't look like control at all. It's not yelling or ultimatums. It's a warm smile that makes you feel like a king one day, and a cold silence that leaves you anxious the next. It's the kind of thing that makes you adjust your entire life, not because she told you to, but because you think it's your choice. And the scariest part, you might be so deep in it that you're defending her influence, calling it love, compromise, or just being a good partner. Today, we're going to unpack 6 subtle ways she might be controlling you without you even realizing it. And more importantly, how to spot these patterns and take back your power. If you've ever felt like you're walking on eggshells, always trying to keep her happy, or losing a piece of yourself in the relationship, this is for you. Stick with me for the next half hour, because we're going to dive into the psychology behind these dynamics, share some real-life stories, and give you practical steps to regain your freedom. Let's get started. First up, let's talk about emotional conditioning, a tactic straight out of a psychology textbook. You've probably heard of Pavlov's dogs. Right, ring a bell, give them food, and soon they're salivating, just at the sound of the bell. It's classic behavioral training, and believe it or not, it's happening in your relationship right now. She's conditioning you not with a bell, but with her emotions. And it's so subtle you might not even see it. Here's how it works. When you do something she likes, maybe you reply to her texts instantly, plan a date she loves, or agree with her opinion, she rewards you. It could be a warm smile, a flirty touch, a sweet comment like, "You're so good to me," or even just making you feel like you're the best partner in the world. It feels amazing, like you're on top of the world. That's the reward. It lights up the pleasure centers in your brain, and you naturally want more of it. But when you do something she doesn't like, say you're late to reply because you're swamped at work, or you choose to hang out with friends instead of her, she pulls back. Maybe she goes quiet, gives you a one-word text, or hits you with that disappointed look that makes your stomach sink. That's the punishment. It's not an argument or a fight. It's a subtle withdrawal of affection that leaves you feeling uneasy, like you've done something wrong. Let me paint a picture. Imagine you're having a crazy day at work, and you miss a couple of her texts. When you finally reply, she doesn't respond for hours. When she does, it's a curt, "Oh, you're finally free now." You feel guilty even though you were just doing your job. Or maybe you plan a romantic dinner and she's all over you. Affectionate laughing, making you feel like a hero. But the next week you cancel a plan to catch up with friends, and she's distant for days, leaving you wondering what you did wrong. Over time, you start changing your behavior. You text back faster, skip outings with friends, or avoid disagreements just to keep that warm, loving vibe and avoid the cold shoulder. I had a friend, let's call him Mark, who went through this. He loved playing basketball with his buddies every Saturday, but his girlfriend would get moody whenever he went. She never told him to stop, but her silences and short replies made him feel like he was letting her down. Within months, he was texting her during games to check in, and eventually he stopped going altogether. He thought he was being a better boyfriend, but he was being trained. conditioned to prioritize her approval over his own happiness. Why does this work? It taps into your natural desire for connection and validation. Your brain starts associating her affection with good behavior and her distance with bad behavior. Before you know it, you're not making free choices anymore. You're chasing her approval like a dog chasing a treat. Psychologically, this is powerful because it rewires your decision-making process. You start to think, I'm just being considerate. But ask yourself, are you acting out of love or out of fear of losing her warmth? To spot this, pay attention to how you feel when she's off with you. Are you anxious, constantly checking your phone or changing your plans to avoid her being distant? If so, you're not just in love, you're being conditioned. The takeaway here is simple. Emotional conditioning isn't about her expressing feelings. It's about shaping your behavior. If you're always adjusting yourself to keep her happy, you're not free. You're her pet project. Start noticing these patterns and ask yourself, are my choices really mine, or am I chasing her approval? Now let's move on to the second tactic, manipulating the narrative and inducing guilt. This is one of the sneakiest ways to control someone because it makes you feel like you're always in the wrong, even when you've done nothing bad. She doesn't need to accuse you outright or start a fight. Instead, she reframes every situation to position you as the bad guy, so you're constantly on the defensive. Here's what it looks like in action. Let's say you're swamped at work and miss a few of her calls. Instead of saying, "Hey, why didn't you pick up?" she says, "I guess I'm just not important to you." Or maybe you need a night to yourself after a stressful week, and she responds, "You're so distant. It's like you don't care about me." Or you have a disagreement about something small, like where to eat, and she sighs, "You never really hear me out, do you?" Notice how these statements aren't about the issue itself. They're about your failure to meet her emotional needs. I remember talking to a guy named Alex who went through this. He wanted to spend a weekend working on a personal project, something he was passionate about. When he told his girlfriend, she didn't argue. She just said, "I feel like you're pulling away from me." Suddenly he was apologizing, explaining himself, and promising to spend more time with her. He hadn't done anything wrong, but she reframed it to make him feel like he was neglecting her. Over time, he stopped working on his project altogether because every time he tried, she made him feel selfish. This tactic works because it taps into your empathy and your desire to be a good partner. By framing herself as the hurt party, she shifts the focus from your valid needs to her feelings. You start questioning yourself, am I being selfish? Am I not attentive enough? It's a form of gaslighting light, not outright denying reality, but subtly making you doubt your own perspective. The more you buy into her narrative, the less you trust your own judgment. You feel guilty every time you set a boundary, say no, or even have an opinion that differs from hers. Let's break it down with another example. Imagine you're out with friends having a great time, and she texts, "I'm feeling really alone tonight." You cut your night short to call her only to find she's fine. But now you feel guilty for enjoying yourself. Or maybe you try to set a boundary, like asking her not to call you during work hours. Instead of respecting it, she says, "I just wanted to feel close to you, but I guess I'm a burden." Suddenly, you're apologizing for needing space, and she's the one who feels hurt. Why is this so dangerous? Because it erodes your confidence in your own decisions. You start to believe you're the problem, and you adjust your behavior to avoid her disappointment. Psychologically, this is about controlling the narrative. She's writing a story where she's the victim, and you're the one who needs to fix things. The more you play along, the less power you have to stand up for yourself. To spot this, ask yourself, how often am I apologizing even when I'm not sure what I did wrong? Do I feel like I'm always the bad guy in her story? If every disagreement ends with you feeling guilty, she's not just communicating. she's controlling the narrative. The takeaway here is that love doesn't make you feel perpetually at fault. If you're constantly second-guessing yourself to avoid her disappointment, you're not in a partnership. You're in her script. Start trusting your own perspective and don't let guilt dictate your choices. Next, let's talk about a tactic that's incredibly powerful because it feels so genuine, weaponizing vulnerability. This is when she uses her softness, her pain, or her past to keep you emotionally tethered to her. She might open up about a painful breakup, a tough childhood, or how she's never trusted anyone the way she trusts you. It feels like she's letting you into her heart, and it makes you feel special, like you're her safe haven. But sometimes this vulnerability isn't just about closeness. It's a way to make you feel responsible for her emotional well-being. Picture this. She tells you, "I've never felt this safe with anyone before," or "I have trust issues because of my ex. Please don't hurt me." Maybe she shares a story about how her last partner made her feel worthless, and now you're the one who's different. These moments feel intimate, like you're building a deep connection. But here's the catch. By positioning herself as fragile, she's handing you a role, the protector of her emotions. Suddenly, every disagreement, every boundary you try to set feels like you're risking her trust or adding to her pain. I worked with a guy named James who experienced this firsthand. His girlfriend would often talk about her abusive ex, sharing tearful stories about how she felt broken. Whenever they argued, even about something small like him needing a night to himself, she'd say, "This reminds me of how he made me feel." James would immediately back off, comforting her, instead of addressing his own needs. He didn't want to be that guy who hurt her again, so he silenced himself. Over time, he realized he was living for her emotions, not his own. This tactic works because it leverages your empathy and your desire to be a good partner. You want to be the one who heals her, who makes her feel safe. But when every conflict turns into, "You're making me feel unsafe," or "I thought you were different," you're not in a relationship. You're in an emotional hostage situation. Psychologically, this is about creating a sense of duty. You feel like it's your job to protect her from pain, and that makes it hard to stand up for yourself without feeling like you're betraying her trust. Let me give you another example. You want to talk about how she dismisses your opinions during disagreements. Before you can, she breaks down saying, "My ex used to make me feel so unheard, and I thought you were better than that." Suddenly, you're not discussing your concern. You're comforting her, feeling guilty for even bringing it up. Over time, you stop voicing your needs altogether because it feels like you're hurting her. To spot this, ask yourself, do I feel like I'm responsible for her emotional well-being? Does every conflict end with me comforting her instead of addressing my own needs? If so, her vulnerability might be a tool to keep you in line. The takeaway is that true vulnerability builds trust and closeness, but when it's used to make you feel guilty for having your own needs, it's control in disguise. Love doesn't demand you sacrifice your voice to protect her feelings. Start noticing when her vulnerability shifts the focus away from your needs. That's the red flag. Now let's talk about something that creeps up slowly but hits hard, creating an emotional monopoly. This is when she becomes your entire world. Your confidant, your stress reliever, the only person who gets you. It feels like love, like you've found your soulmate. But then one day she pulls back. Maybe she's distant, silent, or just not as warm, and your world falls apart. Why? Because she's become your only source of happiness. Here's how it happens. Early in the relationship, she's there for you in ways that feel incredible. She listens to your deepest thoughts, supports you through tough times, and makes you feel uniquely understood. You start relying on her for emotional support, sharing things you've never told anyone else. It feels amazing, like you've found the one person who truly sees you. But over time, you notice you're spending less time with friends, skipping your hobbies, or losing touch with your own world, all to prioritize her. I saw this with a client named Tom. He used to love hiking with his friends every weekend, but his girlfriend would make subtle comments like, "I'll just be here by myself," or "I miss you when you're gone." She never told him to stop, but her tone made him feel guilty for leaving her. Eventually, he stopped hiking, stopped calling his friends, and made her the center of his life. When she was happy, he was on cloud nine. But when she was distant, even for a day, he felt empty, like a piece of him was missing. This is what psychologists call emotional dependency. By becoming your sole source of joy, validation, and connection, she gains immense control. Her moods dictate your happiness, and her withdrawal feels like a crisis. It's not just love. It's an emotional monopoly where she's the only supplier of your emotional needs. Why does this work? Because humans crave connection, and when one person becomes your primary source of it, you become vulnerable to their influence. If she's the only one who makes you feel understood, her pulling away, even slightly, feels like losing your lifeline. Over time, you might not even notice how much of yourself you've given up to keep her close. To spot this, ask yourself, have I drifted away from my friends' hobbies or passions since being with her? Do I feel empty when she's not around or not happy with me? If she's your only source of joy, she holds all the power, and that's not an accident. The takeaway is that a healthy relationship adds to your life, not replaces it. Start reconnecting with your own world, your friends, your interests, your goals, and see how she reacts. If she resists, that's a sign she's banking on your dependency. Let's move to a tactic that's disorienting because it's so unpredictable: mixed signals and the hot-cold game. This is when she keeps you guessing with her emotions. One day, she's all in, showering you with love and attention. The next, she's distant, vague, or even flirty with someone else. It's confusing, and that's the point. Here's what it looks like. One weekend, you have an amazing time together. She's affectionate, passionate, telling you how much she loves you. You feel like you're on top of the world. But then Monday rolls around, and she's barely responding to your texts, giving you one-word answers, or acting like you're not even on her radar. Or maybe she says, "I love you," but dodges any talk about commitment or the future. Or she flirts with you, then pulls away only to come back with a charming smile just when you're ready to give up. I had a friend, Mike, who went through this. His girlfriend would be super affectionate one day, planning dates and sending him sweet messages. But then out of nowhere, she'd go cold, ignoring his calls or acting distant for no clear reason. He'd spend days analyzing what he did wrong, trying to recreate the perfect moments. It was like he was addicted to her affection, always chasing the next high and blaming himself when she pulled away. This tactic works because it triggers a dopamine rush in your brain, like a gambler pulling a slot machine lever, hoping for a win. Psychologically, this is called intermittent reinforcement. Unpredictable rewards keep you hooked, always striving to fix things or win her back. You become obsessed with decoding her moods, trying to figure out what makes her warm and what makes her cold. Instead of questioning the relationship, you're stuck in a cycle of chasing her approval. To spot this, ask yourself, am I constantly trying to figure out what I did to upset her? Do I feel like I'm chasing her love, like it's a prize I have to earn? If so, you're not in a relationship. You're in a game you didn't sign up for. The takeaway is that love isn't a roller coaster of unpredictability. A healthy partner is consistent, not playing hot and cold to keep you off balance. Start paying attention to the pattern and ask yourself, why am I playing this game? Finally, let's talk about subtle social pressure, a tactic that isolates you without her ever saying it outright. She doesn't need to tell you to stop seeing your friends or enjoying your hobbies. Instead, she uses subtle cues to make you feel guilty for having a life outside her. Here's how it looks. You're planning a game night with your buddies, and she says, "You're still hanging out with them. I thought we were spending time together." Or maybe you're into gaming, and she comments, "You're always on that thing. Don't you want to be with me?" Or when you mention catching up with an old friend, she sighs, "I just feel so disconnected when you're out with other people." She's not forbidding you from doing these things. She's just planting seeds of guilt. I saw this with a client named Ryan. He loved his weekly poker nights, but every time he went, his girlfriend would act distant afterwards, saying things like, "I missed you tonight." She never told him to stop, but her tone made him feel like he was choosing his friends over her. Eventually, he started skipping poker nights to avoid the tension, not realizing he was isolating himself. By the time he noticed, his social circle had shrunk and she was the only one left. This tactic works because it's so subtle. You think you're making choices out of love or compromise, but you're actually adjusting your behavior to avoid her disapproval. Over time, you might notice you've lost touch with friends, given up hobbies, or let go of things that used to define you. Psychologically, this is about creating social dependency. When she's your only close connection, she has more control over your emotional world. To spot this, ask yourself, have I stopped doing things I love because of her reactions? Do I feel guilty for having a life outside the relationship? If your world is shrinking to just her, it's not compromise, it's control. The takeaway is that love doesn't demand you sacrifice your identity. A healthy partner encourages your friendships, passions, and independence, not subtly punishes you for them. So let's bring it all together. These 6 tactics: emotional conditioning, narrative, manipulation, weaponizing, vulnerability, creating an emotional monopoly, playing hot and cold, and subtle social pressure. They're not always loud or obvious. They're quiet, clever, and incredibly effective. They reshape your reality, making you feel like you're choosing to change when really you're being guided by her influence. The result, you're not yourself anymore. You're tiptoeing around her feelings, apologizing for things you didn't do, and giving up pieces of your life to keep her happy. Here are the signs you're caught in this dynamic. You're always careful with your words to avoid upsetting her. You apologize even when you're not sure what you did wrong. Your friends' hobbies and passions have taken a back seat to her needs, and you feel like you're constantly trying to earn her love or approval. If this sounds familiar, you're not in love. You're in invisible chains. But here's the good news. You can break free. Start by recognizing the patterns we've talked about. Notice when you're changing your behavior to avoid her disapproval. Next, reclaim your space. Reconnect with friends, pick up your hobbies, and set goals that are just for you. A healthy partner will support this, not resist it. Practice setting boundaries, like saying no without guilt, and see how she reacts. If she pushes back, that's a sign of control, not love. And if you're struggling to see clearly, talk to a trusted friend or a therapist, someone who can give you an outside perspective on the relationship. Love should lift you up, encourage your growth, and respect your freedom. If you're shrinking yourself to fit her world, that's not love, it's possession. The first step to freedom is seeing the chains, and I hope this video has helped you do that. Before we wrap up, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt controlled in a relationship like this, and maybe you've experienced one of these tactics, or you're seeing it in a friend's relationship? Drop your story in the comments. Let's start a conversation and support each other. If this video hit home, or you know someone who needs to hear it, share it with them. It might just open their eyes. And if you want more deep dives into the psychology of modern relationships, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.